I was thinking, I mean, how did you find out that you had OCD? Like, how did you, I mean, you found out somewhere, right? And there was a journey that led you to then sharing that post. So how did you, what were you doing? Was it like me, a program, a book? You know, how did you find out that you had OCD?
I found out I had OCD when I realized that, that I would get to a point very much like Howard Hughes where I'm never going to leave my house.
Yeah.
And when you get to a point, so I've had OCD since I was very, very young, you know, and in the beginning you think, well, you're going to, go back a couple of steps. Oh, I have to step on this. I can't step on that. You know, there's silly light things that happen.
Did someone tell you had it? Did someone say that's what you're doing there is a sign of OCD?
No. I had to find out, and I was curious to understand why did I behave like that. And then when I became very ill, and my kids were also, I had huge complications with them when I was pregnant. But I realized OCD when I was probably around 14, maybe 13, 14. And it was my recognition of my repetitive behavior, I guess, was the first thing that I was very aware of. But I didn't understand the intrusiveness part of it. I thought it initially just related to my compulsiveness in doing things repeatedly.
Yeah.
I didn't understand. But it's only when I was in my 20s and was really unwell and the consequences of that repetitive behavior and what was happening and, a whole bunch of stuff. So that's when I realized, well, this is much more. And then, of course, I started educating myself about it and reading more and understanding. But it's not until, maybe I'd say 5 years ago that I realized just how much the intrusive part, because the intrusive part for me, it was almost OCD for me was what everybody thought. I just kind of focused on the madness of repeatedly doing things to a crazy point, to a point, like I said, when I'm not able to leave my home because it was just too exhausting. But that was linked to the repetitive behavior and the compulsions that I had.
Yeah.
But thinking part, I never, despite it ruling my mind,
yes,
and I would just try to learn to cope with it. So I'd pour myself into work.
Yeah.
I never linked them together because I wasn't educated enough to know that they were together. It's only a few years ago, really, that again, I started to kind of, by chance, I was reading about it and I came about and I thought, oh my God, so it's not just this, it actually links to this. But it was just this pounding, constant, consistent thought.
Oh, it's awful, isn't it?
It's horrendous. And and the twice, 2 or 3 times that I burnt out from it was the terrifying part, which really hurt, when I was in not a great state. But that's when I realized actually that's a massive part of the whole. It's not just about the insanity of me constantly doing something repeatedly or whatever. It's actually a big part of it is those thoughts. And that's when I decided, I guess a few years ago, to help the repetitive part, I'm going to share that with people so I can manage this part of it, because that I was not ready to share.
Yes.
So in order to free myself to kind of cope with the one, I thought, well, if I'm going to just be open to everybody, say, listen, guys, help me out. Just don't, this is how I am. This is what I'll do. And it was fine. But then it just allowed me time to focus on my mental well-being, my mental state and what was happening. And it's because of my OCD, like I think I mentioned to you, that's because of that I had my career. Because that was my advice given is that you need to go and get something so that you don't destroy your children's life and your life. Yeah. So you need to get out and find something, which was shocking to me. I have to be amongst people and touch things. But it's because of that, my OCD propelled my career and allowed me, because when I got into my career, I just would pour everything into it to help manage my mind. I'd have to occupy. Yes. And so that, then of course that turned into ambition. So for me, I turned that into, well, okay, I'm done with this job. Let's go for another and another and another, because I had to feed my mind.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. When my mind goes quiet, that's what my husband was saying, a little while back, is when you're sort of not doing much, that's when it's just not great. But I have to keep my mind occupied. But I never realized the two were together. I thought one was like a physical thing.
Yeah.
My mental was a separate thing that I really couldn't talk to people about.
How how did you because I know a load of people with OCD, you know, would love to get a job and they just find their symptoms, you know, kind of stop them and stuff like that. And I know, again, every person's journey is different, but I mean, how did you find going out and kind of working? I mean, it must have been such a massive. I mean, I can't imagine going out and doing that. And you were public facing as well, weren't you? You were in retail, so it's not like you could go off and have a bit of a cry properly. I mean, how were you managing the compulsions there? And just...
Oh my God. I mean, I guess the first 2 years was very difficult because, and I threw myself, you know, my first job was Harrods, right? And I kind of, well, for two things, because I thought if I have to get a job, I want to go and get a job at the best place and learn the best. Like if I'm going to be out there, then I got to make use of it. Yes. You know, I'm not going to put myself in a public space, which was the instruction was you have to go and immerse yourself in public.
It's a big exposure, wasn't it?
And it was massive. And because I was, you know, cocooning myself and my kids and never like leaving the home, and it was just a little bit crazy. But I knew that if I didn't do that, then like I said, I mean, I would destroy their lives and mine. So that was the thing, right? Because that was a very clear message. You don't do that, and that's it. You know. So there was it was like an ultimatum, right? Yes, so then that got me thinking at the time, well, if I have an ultimatum, which I need to do, well, what am I going to go work for? You know, I don't want to go and work for just anything. If I'm going to have to go through this torture of being public, then I want to make use of it. I want to learn at the same time and do something that I, you know, and I know that I will love, and which is why initially I chose Harrods, because I thought I want to learn from the best. It was so glamorous, and it was like my dream to work for the number one destination, especially in the 90s, you know.
Yes, yeah.
Harrods was incredible. So, but the fact that I knew I had to be with 3,000 people every day using the same, you know, facilities, bathrooms, using the canteen, speaking to customers, serving customers. Oh my God. I mean, and it was, you know, from 9 a.m, late hours, you know, maybe 8-9 hour days, using public transport. Oh my God, it was very difficult. And then there was a point, because I would have to, you know, I was constantly, you know, washing, wiping. It was exhaustive. You know, of course, when I come home, everything has to be, you know, detoxed and cleaned and rinsed and washed. And then, so in the beginning, it was just exhausting. I was exhausted. And of course, you know, I had to take care of my family as well and all of that. So it was very, very tough. But the thing that was driving me is that there's, you know, this is a process, hoping that one day it would get so exhausting that I kind of have to just give it up, because I can't. It's too I've got to choose one, right? Either exhaustion, which would, you know, ultimately be my demise, because physically and mentally I just couldn't cope, or I just have to kind of bite the bullet. And so I think after sort of 18 months of this persistent exhaustion, I just thought one day, I can't do this. Like, I'm going to do it, but how about if I try just half of it? You know, it was sort of my mind saying to me, why don't you just try half? Nobody's saying to you not to wipe and not to do, but for the sake of your family, you know, for the sake of your, like, why don't you choose half? And then half became a quarter, and then, and, you know, but over time, right? Because it was, I couldn't, every day I meet, you know, 250, 500 people. It was just not possible to change 4 or 5 outfits every day. It wasn't possible not to sit, you know, on a bench next to someone having lunch. Was it possible not to go to the bathroom? My choice was, do I go home to the bathroom? Well, of course not. That's, you know, miles away. So it's just, it's when you immerse yourself, right? It's that shock, because what are you going to do? You have to put yourself in that really uncomfortable position. You know, and so that's what it was. And I just had to throw myself in it, and over time figure out I can't. It's just exhausting.
You did exposures, didn't you? Because I know, like, the classic it's CBT, the treatment for OCD, and again, it doesn't work for everyone, is cognitive behavioural therapy with exposure and response prevention, where you've got to expose yourself to your peers, but then try not to do the following compulsions. And one of the ways you do that is to gradually lessen how much you're doing it. So you did your own therapy.
So the first thing was, well, I know if I immerse myself, it's going to kill me. I mean, I know that's just common sense. It's not going to, I'm not going to take kindly to this. It's so difficult. Like that step, leaving that house that day and getting on that bus. Oh my God. And then going to Harrods and then having to meet all the trainers and people, that was just, I can't even explain like what was going on with my mind. All I was like, I just want to go home so I can dip myself in a massive bottle of Dettol and wash with, like, that's all I was caring about. But it's like, it's okay, because I knew. And then I got it in my mind exactly that, you know what? I know at the end of the day, I'm going to be able to do that. So let me just go for it, because there's no point at this point thinking about it. And I'm going to get fired. And that was also the other thing. If I'm going to be off the shop floor because I'm, cleansing and cleaning, well, then I'm going to lose my job, which would have been horrendous, right? So I just put myself in that very difficult position and slowly chipped away at it. Yeah, it was either that, or it was either OCD wins or I win.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I don't think people realize the strength that it takes to do that, and day after day, to kind of keep going. You'd have a bad day and then to get up the next morning to do it all again. I mean, so all credit to you and all of us who are kind of getting up.
Because what is the choice though? That's what you have to ask yourself. What choice? So it's like, like, that's what I'm saying. It's the battle of, is it you or me?
Yes.
Which one of us is going to come out?
Comes down to that, doesn't it? It comes down to that.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you find, because I mean, obviously you're not on the shop floor anymore at Harrods. How did you find, as you progressed through your careers, did that still work for you as you were going the whole way along? Did you find that OCD stayed quiet, or did you have times where it really came and
OCD's never been quiet. There's never been a day in my life where it's quiet. I've never had the luxury of having a quiet OCD timeout. I've had the luxury of it being a lesser than an extreme, right? It's a lesser than extreme. But my way of dealing with it was that's what I'm saying. It sort of became ambition versus obsession.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the thing. So I figured, well, if I'm going to do this career, then I want to learn everything about it. I want to learn the A to Z. So I channeled, that's what I'm saying, that obsession to, okay, well, I'm going to be the best at it. I'm going to learn the most of it, and I want to learn all of it. And that means, but so that accelerated my career, right? Because every time I go into a job, I do it well, I learn, I leave, I do another one in, but it was kind of constantly pushing me. But, it never left me. And it became some jobs, for example, when I was in Karen Millen, I mean, that was probably the most difficult because I was working a lot in India and China. So, first of all, months away from my kids and my home and my support for the family, and then being in China and being in India. But I just immerse myself, and it has allowed me to become a high achiever. Because I occupied my time. Because working filled that space mentally. So therefore, I started excelling in it because I started, spending longer time learning more about it, really deep diving into it. So I just became, an expert in whatever I was doing because I needed to fill this. And then as I got older, sort of towards, the latter part of my career, I started physically changing, like I said to you last time, I think, environments that I would be in. So it was really interesting. Then I started to, when I go into businesses, if the environment wasn't suitable for the business, or if I needed to break down physical walls, create open spaces, open up communication channels, make it more, creative spaces, zones for people to kind of chill. Everything was because I was OCD. So then businesses benefited hugely from me because I go into a job and fast track it. So they see like what would take someone maybe 2 years to effect change, it would take me 6 months. Only because my mind was so active and focused because I needed to fill it. So I was doing the job in less the time. And then physically they were, ending up with beautiful offices and beautiful spaces because I had to create color, openness, calmness, you know, because that would help me.
Yes.
It's like, okay, to help me, I need to be with my team, be in an open space, give them a place to chill and zone out, give them a creative space to kind of think and process. So amazing meeting rooms and incredible art and all of this. And suddenly these businesses that I've been in, you know, I transformed physically as well.
Yeah.
Thanks to my OCD. So it's fascinating. I'm very grateful for it. It's maddening, and it hurt me a lot because it burnt me out and got me really unwell 3 major times.
Yes.
Because I feel, you know, every business I go in, I go like at about 1,000 miles an hour, which is very difficult, and which makes it the greatest challenge, I think, has always been, if you ask anybody working with me, is the pace.
Yes.
The greatest challenge for people that work with me is understanding the pace and the pace of how I work and the pace of how I think. And it's only been 2 years that I recognize that's because of OCD.
Yes.
I didn't know that. I really thought I would. Yeah.
Can you have like a day off? Do you, I mean, not from your mind, but I mean, are you able to kind of, because I struggle with that. I struggle like a nice day out. I still have to be busy, but doing nice things. I mean, can you relax, as it were?
I can, because I'm, you know, my faith is my guiding everything, right?
Yeah.
So I'm incredibly, my faith leads everything in my decision, in business, life, personal. So my time when I pray, because, you know, I'm Muslim, so we have 5 times a day where we break for prayer. And so those are 5 times when you have to be complete solace, right? Solitude. And so that, and because it's so profound in me, my faith, and guides everything. So those moments, and I always start my day with, you know, reading the Quran. So everybody says, you know, what's the last book you read, or how many books you must read so much? Well, the last and only book I've read in the last 30 something years has been the Quran. I read nothing else. And that is my inner calm. So I start my day with that, and then I pray. And my prayer, usually it's a 5-minute, but it'll be like 45 minutes. Because I, you know, it's my time. I try to do my time and my thought. And then at night before I go to sleep, you know, I will read as well. So my peace is very important to me. So whilst my mind is active and still intrusive, but it won't stop me from having, so I, you know, I mean, usually where I live, for example, when I was living in Dubai, I lived in the desert the whole time. People assume you must live in the middle of the city and you're a city girl and you want to be in the action. And I lived in the furthest point where a car could reach, literally in the desert. So I wake up and there is nothing. And I get home because I need that, because I need to have, you know, and you're right, you know, I busy myself. I never have a day when I'm not doing, whether it's house chores or, you know, whatever it is, but it's because I love it. And you have to have that peace. You have to try to find that peace. You really do.
Isn't it? I know a lot of people who, you know, found spirituality to be, in whatever form, you know, and just so helpful, something to guide them, something to help calm them.
Exactly.
I never really realized until I started advocating just what a big part of spirituality was. And you know, you've got to have belief, you know, haven't you? You've got to...
because it's your I guess your grounding. It's your core, right? And so it's your inner peace, and you have to find that. However, because you need that grounding. Everybody does.
Yes.
So that space where, you know, it doesn't matter, like I said, even when I am sort of praying, or those thoughts are just a constant, which is so much more difficult, you know, but I know that that's fine. They'll be there. And I just have learned to, you know, just be there. It doesn't really matter, but you're not going to make me stop doing what I need to do.
Yes.
But I think, you know, finding a passion, Catherine, is very important. Finding what you love to do. Filling your time with something that you love is half the win.
Yes, you know? Absolutely. And you clearly have, haven't you? I'm starting to find mine, you know, it's like you've got to be at a certain point, you know, to be able to look into that, I think, in terms of recovery. But I mean, you just being able to find something that you feel passionate about and that really motivates you even on the worst of days is the difference of everything, isn't it? Because OCD is hard enough. You really want something, even if it can't be your career, and for a lot of people it's not, to find it somewhere else.
Even I was coaching someone with OCD a couple of weeks ago, and I was saying to her, she's saying, should I quit my job? I can't take it anymore. My OCD is, it's but I need to contribute and I need to do this and that. And I said to her, well, but is it allowing you at the end of that day? Does it allow you to do what you love?
Yes. Yeah.
It's that salary, those 9 hours. You do them and you do them well.
Yes.
Do it right, do it well. But that income is allowing you. She wants to be an advocate for OCD. She wants to have a blog. She wants to do it. So I said to her, so you have to look at it. If I don't have this, I can't afford to do that.
Exactly.
So if you quit now, so how are you going to fund that?
Yes.
You're not. So calm yourself down and do it. But no, at the end of the day, every day you get to do what you love.
Exactly.
But you can, at the end of the day, carve that space for your passion.
Yes.
You have to have that outlet though.
Even if it's just a tiny bit of time, I find it very hard with loads of little projects on and having a family. You must as well, it pumps a load of joy back in your life, doesn't it?
It does. It does. It's so important. I'm a massive believer when you say find your passion. Really, it's your purpose, right? Whatever that may be.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And that goes back again to you saying about young people spending a lot of time isolated on their phones.
Sad.
Yeah.
Not experiencing the world,
I know. And so, we've spoken a little bit about, your hopes and stuff like that, haven't we? About the future. Mm-hmm. So have you got any thoughts about future bits and bobs or anything like that?
For OCD?
Yeah, or just what are your future plans?
For me, for me, always it's been about, leaving my legacy. I think that's been very important for me. Leaving that impact and leaving that story. That's what we all hope for, right? Is that little, something that people, and so I knowledge transfer is something I'm passionate about, so I do a lot when it comes to sort of coaching, mentoring, workshops, helping the younger generation, become successful in whatever they do. But I think my one thing that I do want to do is focus on the OCD community, and I have definitely, no matter what, it's making a change. That's what I always, in any project, anything I do, it's got to leave that print. You got nothing else to leave behind, right?
Well, you're doing it, aren't you? You're doing it.
Well, I hope so.
Already, just with that post.